Hey. Sorry, I was just like listening to...
We're like Night at the Roxbury over here. Our heads are just... Oh, but I hurt.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another week of Case Files with Kat.
And Ashley.
What you got for us?
Okay.
Put it in your mouth.
You guys, the microphone is now in my mouth. Is this close enough?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. How's your week been? I'll just ask your questions.
You're going to take over. It's okay. I got a tetanus shot and a flu shot today, and it's kicking my booty.
Oh, Lord.
I actually hurt today.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I hurt all the time, but I hurt more than usual.
Yeah.
Oh, I need some Tylenol. So, yeah. How's your week been?
My week's actually been pretty good.
Have you washed off the last episode?
I just try to pretend like I had a blackout, and I just don't think about it.
Y'all, we've been doing this show 5 years. Okay, 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. I have never seen you look so uncomfortable during one of my episodes.
Yes.
So
this week I
had her head like back. She was just looking up at the ceiling. She wanted nothing to do with
So in true Toastmaster form, Kat used to tell these horrible, sad stories, and then I would have to go after her and tell humorous stories, which were my life, that everyone found funny. And so that's kind of what we're doing with the episodes. My episode is very light, unless you live in Alaska, then I'm very sorry.
Yeah, she's never going to Alaska.
Definitely not.
Okay, so I want to hear all about it.
But anyways, yeah, I've had a good week. My friend sent me this plushie, Jessie, our listener.
Hi, Jessie.
There's this line, and they're called mysterious plushies. Anyways, she had sent me a sleep paralysis one before that I really loved. But this one was an anxiety one. And so it comes with 2 little worry bunnies. And you tell it your worry, and then you put the little worries inside the plushie.
Yeah.
And then, it's like worry dolls. Anyways.
What does the sleep paralysis one do?
The sleep paralysis one has like this little detachable monster looking thing that... So it stares at it, and so the sleep paralysis bunny can gives it a hug, gives the little sleep paralysis monster a hug to try and calm it down. Oh. I'll have to show you.
Yeah.
They're really good dolls, like plushies. They're really soft. They have them for all different kinds of mental illnesses, health issues, zodiacs. Different thing. They're so soft, and they have mostly look like bunnies. There's some that are different. But they're just meant to bring you comfort and, make you happy.
Comfort and joy?
Yes, and they do.
The Christmas
I was very excited, but that was my early birthday present. So.
That's coming up.
Yes. And then it's just been my kind of weather, so
I like it. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's enough about me.
Okay.
So... if you don't have Discovery Plus, which is where I mentioned the Alaskan Triangle being on, I did recently find out that you can watch it for free on Tubi TV.
There'll be ads, but that's not bad.
Yeah. So if you don't have Discovery Plus, you can watch it there. If you would like to.
You told us we couldn't.
Yeah, this is the last episode I'm going to do about the Alaskan Triangle because I'm really just don't want to talk about it anymore. I feel like I'm bringing negativity into my life thinking about the things that are happening in Alaska. So
you could not be farther away, though. Well, I guess you could be.
I could be, and I certainly wish I was. Anyways, there are very many stories that I could tell you. We've discussed missing planes, the hairy man, the Loch Ness-like monsters, woolly mammoths, and UFO sightings. So you're like, what could possibly be going on?
But wait, there's more.
There's more. And it's actually more UFOs and then ghost ships of Alaska. Ghost ships. You did hear that correctly.
Like they're see-through? Or like
they're there, but they're not there. They used to be there, and now they're not there, and now they're ghost.
Ooh.
So.
All right, I'm ready.
So I have not even begun to cover most of the Paranormal Activity episodes. There's like 5 more UFO episodes. There's all kinds of other stuff that I haven't covered on the Alaskan Triangle. So if, sorry guys, I'm being moved around here. Okay. So I will say, if you are interested in watching the paranormal episodes, then you need to watch episodes 4 and 5 from season 1 and episodes 2, 5, and 10 from season 2. Because those are all about the paranormal activity there. They're very, very interesting. There's one about a cabin. There's a ghost town. There's just a couple of other really, really good paranormal ones. I just want to move on to a different topic. So I do absolutely recommend watching the series. So there's 2 seasons. Anyways.
I'm totally going to.
When you think UFO, you think outer space, the sky, the planets, galaxies.
I mean, it's flying. Yeah, it's the skies.
But what if I told you...
Stop it.
There was another freaking reason to be terrified of the ocean. In Alaska, there are 95,000 square miles of ocean. Please keep that in mind. I'm going to play this little clip for you.
According to Soviet naval intelligence, more than half the UFOs coming in and going out of this planet are coming out of our oceans. What a perfect place not to have human witnesses.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. So this was the first that I've ever heard of UFOs living underwater or
100%.
Coming from the ocean.
Never heard of
I
that.
am already literally terrified of the ocean and the darkness and what grows beneath it. And now I find out that there are UFOs living under there.
Morgan Freeman did not mention that in the documentary.
70% of this earth that we live on is water, and only 5% of that water has been explored. No thanks. I'm out. I wish I was off of this planet. If the aliens are underwater, take me to outer space. One of the experts on this episode said very nonchalantly, like just as if it was everyday matter of fact, of course they're hiding underwater. And I think they've been there for decades, if not centuries. Why wouldn't they be there? Why would they? Why are there aliens living underwater? Okay, so there's 33,000 miles of unexplored or untapped coast in Alaska alone. Also, if you didn't listen to any of my previous episodes, Alaska has 3 million lakes. 3 million lakes.
I still think that there's like an added 0 in there, at least.
This episode reconfirmed it, and I looked it up. 3 million lakes. On top of that, the Alaskan Triangle holds some of the world's deepest waters. The Gulf of Alaska itself reaches down to the depths of 26,000 feet. Who the fuck knows what's going on down there? I have another clip for you. It will take me a second to get to it.
It's like Abyss, the movie Abyss. Did you ever see that? I love that movie.
Did you?
I did. It'd be awesome if there were like underwater aliens.
Would it though? Would it really be?
They were peaceful.
Could this be a perfect hiding place for a secret underwater alien base?
Yes.
There's definitely underwater UFO activity that's been reported over the last 4 decades. These UFOs have been tracked underwater and stayed underwater for a long time, evaded the Navy, and they go so deep that we don't know where they're going.
So that's the picture that you're looking at of the underwater base. But he goes on to say he's very convinced that there are bases underwater. In case you didn't hear the man, he said, and I quote, "We don't know where they're going. They're just down there, and then they come up out of the water, and who knows where they're going." They also believe that there are maybe possibly underwater like systems where they can travel, kind of like the creatures that were in the water can travel to other water systems. So yes, there's that.
Yeah, through the currents.
Just UFOs, just,
We all saw Finding
UFOs.
Dory.
So researchers stated that the U.S. Navy was aware of the possibility of alien life form in Alaska and that there could be underwater bases. In March 1971, the USS Trepang was carrying out weapons testing in the Arctic when a UFO was sighted in the sea. Some of the officers on board were able to get photographs of the UFO before it took off at a high rate of speed. No one yet has been able to prove these photographs as fake or altered, and the military has never debunked them. And I should say that all of the people that were on that craft signed statements. The entire crew witnessed it.
Wow.
They all signed statements. They were all interviewed by the military. The military has never debunked this sighting.
Wow. But how grainy was the footage? Pretty grainy?
No. I mean, everything that they have was pretty well documented. And I'm going to talk about an incident later where they have like actual radar footage from the military that's like it's straight from the military.
Yeah.
And so in 1969, Dan Willis was serving in the Naval Communications when he reported a UFO incident that would change his life forever. And so back then, it was illegal to talk about UFO sightings. If you were in the military, you would go to jail. And so there was a recent change in military law that means he can publicly speak about it without the fear of jail.
Why though?
They try to be sneaky. I guess they don't want the public to be in fear. Who knows? It's the government. I have another clip, you guys. I have a lot of clips just because I feel like a lot of this, it just needs to be heard straight from these people.
Sure.
I was a certified high-speed code operator, type of thing. I worked at the code room, the Naval Communications Station in San Francisco. I had a top secret, extra sensitive material handling security clearance. I received a secret priority message from a ship that was off the coast of Alaska, coming in through a Morse code channel.
The crew were reportedly startled by what they just witnessed off the port side of their ship.
The crew reported a brightly glowing reddish-orange elliptical object approximately 70 feet in diameter that emerged out of the ocean and then shot straight up into space. The radar operator tracked the blips going in excess of 7,000 miles per hour. I'm reading the message as I'm decoding it from Morse code. It was a highly unusual message. I never experienced anything like that. So it all stuck, it burned like an image in the back of my head, this message.
Making a UFO sighting public was a crime for any U.S. serviceman under the 1953 Espionage Act. But Dan was in a dilemma about keeping such an important event under wraps.
I have to admit, for a second, I was thinking of taking this secret message to make a copy of it on the Xerox machine, but I knew if I did, I'd be facing 10 years in prison, so I had a second thought about doing that.
So Dan took the top secret message to his superiors, who then passed it on to the highest ranks of the U.S. Navy. Dan came to one conclusion about this reported UFO sighting.
This is 1969, so, I couldn't imagine that anybody on Earth had this type of technology, and I imagined it to be extraterrestrial. It was something that was in an official Navy secret report going to the Chief of Naval Operations. This was not part of my reality.
this startling UFO report was never to see the light of day. But the incident continued to trouble Dan.
People don't question things until they have an actual experience themselves. And since that experience, over the decades, it left a burning question in my mind. What is this?
You will see a reoccurring theme in this episode. A lot of the people that report these UFOs are like high clearance military personnel. Or they are like, I have a cat's butt in my face, guys. I'm very sorry. He's the new
Not
host.
mine.
Yes. Oh, yes. Let me clarify. An actual cat named Socks.
He wants to be like.
soft. He wants to be the new host.
No.
He's like, what's
Come
this
here, baby.
alien shit about? Oh my gosh.
Come here, baby.
Okay. So a lot of the people in these are high level clearance, highly educated, very smart people that you just wouldn't typically hear make the statements that they're making. So I could keep playing his clip. He goes into so much detail, but I'm just going to try and like summarize it a little bit. So after that experience, he decided to hunt for evidence of other UFO sightings across the Alaska oceans, and he was startled by what he found. He found a pattern of major incidences reported by U.S. servicemen that were never made public. Because again, if they went public, they were going to prison. So who knows how much was never released to us? Who knows how much we don't know? But one of the reports he found happened in the summer of 1945. Sorry. It's okay. You're just going to have to chill there, buddy. Yes, okay. I know, it's so tragic.
Socks, come here.
He's so soft. We're going to take him away. Oh. He wants to know more about the UFOs.
Okay, come sit with me so you don't delete her story.
I know. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, one of the reports he found was in the summer of 1945. It was an Army transporter ship, U.S. De La Roof? I don't know how to say it. De La Roof. We'll just go with that. It was a really weird name, guys. I'm sorry. DELAROF. I don't know. Anyways, it was heading past. I'm just gonna start over. This is so stressful. I want the cat back. One of the reports he found happened in the summer of 1945. An Army transporter ship was heading past ADOC, one of the Aleutian Islands in the southwest corner of Alaska. Suddenly, one of the crew was said to spot ripples in the water just miles from their vessel. In the report, one of the crew members, he stated that he had turned and saw a large round object which just emerged from the sea. They witnessed a UFO come out of that water, and it was about 150 to 250 feet wide, and it started to circle their ship. The object was said to be in range of the ship's guns. However, the crew was afraid if they fired, it would provoke an attack, and they did not know what this object was. And so after it circled about 2 or 3 times, it just took off. And this was another crew that had 14 members, and they all witnessed it and all swore to seeing it as well. And so, of course, the reports in Alaska still continue today. But if you thought underwater alien bases were the most terrifying thing I'd mentioned, you are wrong. There have been tales of ghost ships.
I love how you're like, your kids can listen to these episodes.
Are sailed, well, they're not in Alaska. Sailed the Alaska seas for years without a captain or crew. So there are over 3,000 shipwrecks along Alaska's coast, but here, unlike the Bermuda Triangle, the ships don't disappear because why would they? They just become ghost ships because why not? It's Alaska. So in 1931, the vast bulk of the SS Bechimo disappeared, and no one ever expected to see it again, but it was seen for another 38 years as a ghost ship. And I know what you must be thinking. Surely not. This is bullshit. These people were not insane. Alaska is very wild. And so I'm going to tell you a story about it. So in the 1920s, well, the cat spaced some of the lines.
Oh,
so I was trying to piece together where it was, but I see it now.
You did delete her story.
But yeah, these people were not crazy. They were crazy for living in Alaska, but they were not crazy for what they reported. So in the 1920s, the S.O. Bay Chimo was the pride of the Hudson Bay Company. This was the fur trade. It was really big business back then, and the Bay Chimo was at the heart of this. It was the largest ship to ever cross into the Arctic Circle. It was a 1,300-ton steel vessel. Okay, a 1,300-ton ship. I need you to remember that. In October of 1931, the ship became trapped in ice after hitting a glacier. And the captain had made the call to abandon the ship. This was all happening in Barrow, which you need to remember that name. It's near the tip of the triangle. The crew disembarked and they set up camp nearby because the cargo was said to be at least $1 million. So they wanted to stay nearby to keep an eye on it. Now, you may be thinking, why would they camp in this frozen terrain? But according to historians, this kind of thing happened often, all the time. Boats would hit glaciers or get stuck in ice. The crew members would camp near it. And when the weather got better, they would just get back on their ship and continue on their merry way, or they would get rescued or whatever. They said that this was not uncommon, which I just cannot wrap my head around. But on November 24th, 5 weeks into their wait, the temperature hit 60 degrees below zero, followed by a huge snowstorm. And so the crew was trapped inside their shelter. And then 3 days later, on November 27th, first of all, I don't know how these people didn't die. 60 degrees below zero, and then a snowstorm.
And then they're camping.
And that's not even the craziest part of this damn story. Anyways, the crew was trapped in their shelter, and then on the morning of November 27th, 3 days later, the storm calmed down, and they looked outside their tent to check on the ship, and the ship had completely vanished. The ship could not have sunk through the ice. That was confirmed. There was no trail of it moving. The outline of the ship was still intact where it had been frozen. The ship was there and then the water was in between the ice where the ship had been frozen. It was literally gone. It could not have sailed away. It could not have gotten out of the ice. It was firmly stuck. And then that's not even the craziest part of this story.
Why wouldn't they stay on the ship? Why would they get off the ship and camp on ice?
That was a common thing. They just set up because they didn't know how long it would be, so they just camped out. Maybe in case I don't know. Maybe in case the ship sunk. But they said that there was proof that this ship did not sink. I don't know why they camped. I don't know why they didn't stay on the ship. Who knows? So, anyways, that's again not even the craziest.
That's the weirdest part to me.
Okay, well,
I'm just kidding.
Strap in. So, shortly after the ship disappeared, there were sightings of a ghost ship, Bay Chimo. The first happened was by Inuit hunters, and these were the natives of the area. They noticed the ship was unmanned and floating freely. In May of 1932, a man named Leslie Melvin boarded the Bay Chimo. He saw it, he was able to reach it, he got onto it, and this time it was in a different location than where the hunters saw it, but at the same time that he was on the ship, they had planes flying over the area and none of them could see the ship. The ship was not in the water. It was not on the radars. This literal human man was standing on the ship. He said he could see it. He said it was completely deserted. There was no crew. Nothing was on this ship. No other human was on the ship, but the planes that flew over could not see him and could not see the ship. And he was the last person to board this ship.
Could he see the planes?
Yes. So as I said, sightings continued for 38 years. It was often said that it would be moving at unnatural speeds. Leslie was the only person to able board it again. No one was ever able to get close to it again, as once it was spotted and other people would try to get to it. When they would get close, there was one of two things that would happen. The weather would suddenly turn very bad, like huge waves, rain, storms, they can never get to it, or the ship would take off the opposite direction in very high rate of speed. That would not be possible for the actual ship. So the native people viewed this as a spirit moving in another dimension. One native shaman who still lives there today explained that the Native Americans' view on reality is everything is made of spirit. Everything in this reality has a certain spirit, and reality is made of spirit, and there are different realities that have different degrees and strengths of spiritual energy. So he said this world would also be considered a spirit world, and that the Bay Chima was moving between different levels of spirit. And when something goes to a different spirit world, it's like basically a different dimension. He said, we're talking about another place. It's like this one, but it's a different layer. So you're seeing it, but it's actually in another dimension. And that's why you can't get it, because it's actually still there, just not here. So leave that to your confusion as you will.
My brain's going, huh?
Basically, he's saying that they believe that there are multiple spiritual dimensions, and that when something disappears from our dimension, that doesn't mean it's gone from other dimensions. So you may, certain people may be able to see it in another dimension, but that's why you can never get to it, because it's not actually in the dimension that you're living in.
Except for that one guy.
Maybe it hadn't gone to the other dimension yet. Who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there. Researchers say that this theory is true. They say that if this theory is true, it could explain the mysterious voyage of a second ship that disappeared in the 1760s. So this one disappeared first. It was last seen with all of its crew frozen solid beneath the decks. This ship was called the Octavius. It was a British sailing ship in the 1700s. They were sailing from Britain to China for trading, and once they have left China, the captain decided he would make an attempt on what is now known as the Northwest Passage. Now, at this time, the Northwest Passage had been undiscovered. It had never been traveled. It was like an unknown passage, and it connected the Pacific Ocean with the Atlantic Ocean. And no one knows why the captain would have attempted this path in 1762, and it's still a mystery because it was a very difficult passage. And again, it wasn't on any kind of map. It hadn't been discovered. It was just kind of like, hey, we're going to do this. Okay, so this ship was found apparently abandoned, drifting the coast of Greenland. Researchers describe the story of the Octavius as spine-chilling. Like, these are historians and researchers. Anyways, they have questions like, how did it get there? It disappeared north of Alaska. From there, the boat drifted through the Northwest Passage, and it ended up near the coast of Greenland. However, it did it by itself. As in, the first boat ever to take this unknown route at the time had no crew, but managed to sail through this passage, not wrecking, not damaged, just made it where it was going. So when the ship was discovered, another ship had discovered it. The crew boarded it, and they found all of the people frozen below. And the captain was at his desk. He had a pen in his hand. It was like frozen in place. And the crew discovered that the boat felt off, like it felt cursed. They were terrified, and so they left the boat. Like, they just left it and got back on their boat, and the Octavius was never seen again. So these people were the last ones to see the boat. They felt it was off. They felt it was cursed. They wanted nothing to do with it. They didn't even take anything from it. They just got off and left. So the last entry in the ship's log was November 11th, 1762, 13 years earlier than when the ship was found. So for 13 years, this ship was sailing by itself, unmanned,
Not damaged, not sunk or anything.
Not sunk, never hit anything. Everybody was frozen down below. The last entry was 1762. So 13 years later is when it was found, according to the historians. Like, these are actual historians and researchers. There is proof of all of this. The ship had been sailing unmanned for 13 years without crashing. The last location in the log was 250 miles north of Point Barrow, which, if you remember, was where Big Chimo disappeared exactly 170 years later.
Whoa.
So both ships disappeared in the same area 170 years apart. Researchers go on to say that most ships are damaged and destroyed within a year of being abandoned. And so there is no idea how these two ships not only survived, but were unmanned for so long.
What was that first one from like the 1700s? That must have been a wooden ship.
So the first one was Octavius, and I would assume it would have been a wooden ship. That's what it looked like in the pictures, reenactment. Yeah. And then the other one was a steel vessel. So there's a belief that both ships were, in fact, cursed. So among the native community, it was common practice to put a curse on wrongdoers. They would create totems out of animal bones, skin, and hair. They would then place this totem into the water so that the curse could take hold. Now, they believe the natives could have put a curse on the Big Chimo for its part in the fur trade and the mass slaughter of animals. So it was documented prior to the Big Chimo getting stuck, like weeks before. One of the natives had actually made a replica of their ship. And it was stated that researchers didn't know if this had been a totem or if it was just like they were amazed at the size of it, because prior to seeing this, they were used to kayaks and like little boats that they would make. Yeah. And so they had never seen a vessel this large. So was it a totem? Like, were they upset about what the ship was involved in, even though they weren't technically doing the fur? I mean, they were helping the fur trade. Okay, so again, they weren't sure if this was like a totem or if it was like they were really cursing it.
Or if they were like, just, hey, we saw this. Yeah, this is like historical preservation.
But it was weeks later that the ship
hit
the ice and disappeared. So I'm going to play this short little clip.
When you destroy and disrespect this life force that flows through everything, it can come back at you. You can be cursed by it. It will be angry. So when you have a ship like this that's plundering and destroying, just violating all these natural laws, they're going to suffer the consequences.
The old saying goes, truth is stranger than fiction, and it's definitely possible.
We've discussed underwater UFO bases. We've discussed ghost ships and possible curses. And if you thought that was it, plot twist.
That's not it.
More UFOs coming at you.
Plot twist.
In the last 60 years, over 9,000 planes have mysteriously crashed in the Alaskan Triangle, and researchers believe that UFOs could be the cause of these. Due to an increase in believable UFO reports, like in that time, like 60 years ago, the U.S. Air Force bases across Alaska upgraded their radar systems. And so one of the most well-documented cases was in 1986, and this shit is like blew my mind, like how much they tried to cover this up. This is what I was talking about. They had all of the actual verified proof. So there was an incident between a 747 coming from Japan and a UFO the size of an aircraft carrier that happened in the Triangle. On November 7th, 1986, the Japanese airliner 747 cargo plane had no passengers, but it did have 3 crew members. They had entered the Alaskan Triangle. They were 90 miles north of Fort Yukon at 5:05 p.m. So they were en route from Paris to Tokyo, and Captain, I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry, Teriyaki? I think that's how you say it, Captain Teriyaki.
Sure.
So he had 20 years of experience as a commercial airline pilot. He had been in the military. He was a professional well-trained pilot, very intelligent. He radioed in to the traffic control because at 5:11, he said he looked off to the left and about 2,000 feet below him where they were flying, he thought that there were some military aircraft because he saw another craft. He saw lights. He called the traffic air control at 5:19. He asked if there was any other plane traffic, and it was at this time that the air traffic control picked up a high-speed object tracking the 747. So they actually saw it on the radar. They saw the blips. And so Jim Derry was an investigator at the time for the Federal Aviation Authority. And at first, he said they weren't too afraid because the crew on the 747 thought it was another aircraft. But then our air traffic control people contacted the military. They said, hey, do you have any planes in the air? Like, what's going on? And the military confirmed that no, we do not have any aircraft. So at first, the air traffic control personnel thought it could be the Soviets because that was the time during close to the Cold War. However, what happened next proved that it could not be possible and that it was not an average plane trailing them. Like, it could not have been an actual plane. And so the object was following them and suddenly performed a gravity-defying maneuver, something that is absolutely impossible. And that was confirmed by multiple pilots, multiple Air Force veterans, all kinds of people, all kinds of experts. So these two crafts jumped from the 2,000 feet below to shooting forward to a position right in front of the aircraft. According to Captain Teriyaki, the objects exhibited complete disregard to the limits of gravity. It would suddenly start, then stop. It would accelerate. It would go back and forth. And it has still never been solved what those crafts were. They were documented on the radar. It was confirmed by multiple witnesses of high levels. There was no denying that there was another craft. And so at one point, the UFOs got so close to the 747, the lights filled up the whole cockpit, and then the aircraft began to shake. And so then the captain said he felt like the heat on his face from the craft next to him. And at this point, he was terrified. And then he said, just like that, they suddenly disappeared. And just when you thought, oh, that's nice, the flight crew would have a peaceful remainder of their trip. Wrong, because this is Alaska. The triangle, in fact, had something even more
The state
petrifying.
of Alaska is going to sue our show.
Well, it is what it is. They should get their shit worked out. The triangle had something even more petrifying in store. They came back and they brought their mothership. There were now 3 crafts flying in formation together. The third object was huge. Its scale and size literally terrified this whole crew. They described it as it was the mothership. It was 8 to 10 times as big as the 747 in height and width. At this point, the air traffic control alerted nearby U.S. Air Force Command Center, and this would be Air Force Base Elmendorf that we've talked about in other episodes. Both command centers could see the craft on their radars. The crafts were moving extremely rapidly on the radar, and the fact was so now it wasn't just the crew. Now it was correlated between the civilian control agency on the ground, which is the air traffic control, and the military, which meant this was something to be taken very seriously at this point. So they were very concerned, and they started working on a plan of emergency. So in a rare move, they advised the 747 to do a very drastic maneuver. They wanted the plane to do a 360 turn, which would have been very difficult. I mean, this is like an actual airplane. So to do a 360 turn in the air like that, it would take it over 5 minutes to even do anything. So anyways, with very few options left, they descended to 31,000 feet and they started the turn. but the UFO continued to follow them. So it was at this point, the only option left was military action. The command center radioed the captain and it said, "Do you want a military fighter jet to come up and have a look?" But he responded immediately with negative. He feared it would. He feared it would provide it would provoke a hostile response from the craft, and if that was enough, he felt this way because he believed an incident that happened in this infamous Mantell incident of 1948. Which, sidebar, they said infamous like everyone would know about this incident, but I had never heard about it until
infamous.
Mm-hmm. Whatever. It's okay. Until we talked about it in one of my previous UFO episodes about the Alaskan Triangle. Okay, but in this incident, in 1948, the National Guard pilot Thomas Mantell was sent in a hot pursuit of a UFO seen at 10,000 feet above a Kentucky air base when his plane literally just dismantled. And he fell violently to his death, and theorists believe that the nuts and bolts of his aircraft were undone by the UFO, which caused him to just plummet to the ground because the aircraft didn't explode. It literally fell apart. So the 747 captain, he knew about that incident, and he was terrified that if they sent military up, the same thing would happen to him. So he's
feeling the shaking.
He was like, I'll just, whatever happens, I'm safer dealing with it up here. So when he refused the military jets, the air traffic control radioed a civilian private jet that was flying just south of the Fairbanks. They asked United Airlines Flight 69 to approach the Japanese 747 airline to investigate. And honestly, I'd be like, what the fuck, no. Absolutely not. If a military isn't getting involved, why should some random United Airlines pilot have to get involved? You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine?
Were there people on that other flight?
That was my question, but they never answered that. But can you imagine being on the plane and then the pilot just comes over the intercom and was like, by the way,
look out your window.
Summoned to go investigate some UFO activity for the military that they will not go investigate themselves.
And to your left, you'll see the cause of your soon death.
Right. Short delay. No biggie. Everything is fine. But can you just imagine? Anyways, they did it. The UFO disappeared off the radar as the United Airlines pilot got close, or as the plane got close. And after 42 minutes, the encounter was over. So the military asked the 747 to land in Anchorage. And once there, the U.S. government literally swooped in. All of the records of the UFO incident were mysteriously misplaced. They disappeared. So you may be wondering, why would aliens just follow an aircraft around for reasons other than just for funsies? Great question, Kat.
It kind of sounded like it was just for funsies.
Researchers believe that there may not have been a ill intent. They think that maybe the plane itself was heading for danger. They believe that another theory could be that they were stopping it from entering a portal, or that they were doing some sort of scientific work on the plane or research on the plane. So Jim Derry was still working with the FAA at the time. He's now retired. But he had been asked to come and interview the Japanese crew. He said their palms were very sweaty. Their pupils were dilated. It was very evident that something had scared them very, very badly. He went on to say that he believed everything they were saying. They were very sincere. They were very believable. He absolutely believed everything they were saying. And so they asked the captain to draw what the mothership looked like. And when he was done, the investigators say they were shocked, mostly due to the size of the craft. So I will post a picture. Oh, you want to see a picture? Okay.
Oh, you don't already have it up?
No.
Okay, we'll forget it.
Yeah. Sorry to disappoint you. But in the picture, and I'll show you afterwards, but I'll post it on our Facebook page. So let's just say he drew the ship like this. The plane was like this. It was such a large scale to the plane. And so Of course, Jim Derry, he admitted that when he saw this drawing, he rolled his eyes. He was like, there's no way. He was very skeptical. He's like, there's nothing that could be that big. That's an exaggeration. However, when the reports from the radar data came out, like the videos and the printed reports and everything from the air traffic control and the military command center, it confirmed what the captain was saying. There was, in fact, actual radar data that you can watch in this episode. It's on the Alaskan Triangle. It's the Flight 1768 episode. It shows you the police radar. It shows you the air traffic control radar data, like as it's happening. It has actual recordings of the cockpit talking to traffic control, and it has printed out reports and then pictures of the drawings and stuff. So it's very interesting to watch. So eventually, all of this is put into a file. And the senior investigator for the FFA, his name was John Callahan. So he put all of this in a file. He was going to take it to the CIA. The file, however, was buried, and this became the beginning of a very major government cover-up. Researchers say that this case is remarkable because, and I'm using their words here, this isn't some reported sighting in some backcountry area where someone could make something up. These are professional, career-focused pilots, high clearance level military professionals. The Federal Aviation Authority's investigator, John Callahan, so again, he's the one that prepared the file. He briefed the FAA. He was blown away by how much was actually recorded. There was so much data, the radar, everything was confirming what the pilot had said. There was voice recordings from the cockpit, like you could hear noises, you could see the radar stuff, all of that. And so he took all of this to the CIA the very next day. He showed them all of the disturbing findings. The CIA reviewed the evidence, and at which point everyone was immediately silenced. They were told this matter was now classified top secret and to not speak about this incident ever again. There was a person from the intelligence community at the CIA meeting that told John they were going to confiscate all of the data that he and the FAA had and told him, I was never here. This meeting never took place. However, the story did get out because Captain Teriyaki told his story to the reporters and recreated his initial sketches for the world's media. So this created a lot of pressure, a lot of media spotlight. He actually, because he spoke about it and because he was previously in the military, they fired him from being a pilot. They grounded him. And anyways, they said he was making it up. So because of all this media pressure, the FFA went public 4 months after the event. They held a conference where they denied that there was any proof of this unidentified flying object. They attributed this to an illusion called a split radar image. And the FFA claimed that the blip seen tracking Flight 1628, the Japanese airliner, was not a UFO, but was a shadow created by the Japanese airliner itself. So former FFA investigator Jim Derry said that that's very questionable. He goes on to say that the FFA produced a rather elongated report telling how the shadow took place, but he said in his expert opinion, which he was the investigator for the Federal Aviation Authority at the time, he did the interviews, and he has spoken to many radar specialists since that incident and said that all of them say the same thing. There is no way that was a radar shadow at all. Like, they have all confirmed there was no way that's true. So how did this become so well documented and so known since the FBI or the CIA hid the files? Well, thanks to John Callahan. He's a real fucking hero. In 2001, he went public with the cockpit recordings and radar data contradicting the FAA's statement because he had made copies of everything, recordings, documents, radar, everything before he went to that CIA meeting and hid it. And if it wasn't for him, no one would have ever known the truth about this incident. So that's my story on UFOs.
Looks like a big hamburger, and then the little tiny, like, the cheese is hanging off, and then there's like a little tiny plane.
He described it as like a walnut shape, and like the other 2 UFOs that were flying around. He said like the other ones, they had no wings; they were just kind of there. But I mean, all over Alaska, there have been so many reports of UFOs coming out of the water. There's deep divers who routinely dive, but unfortunately, a human can only go so far down. And so they're still trying to investigate. Anytime there's a lead, they have like the whole group there, mutual.
The drawings are crazy.
Yeah, it's the Mutual UFO Network called MUFON. They pretty much live in Alaska. I mean, they stay there because there are so many reports, and they take them very seriously. I mean, they have graphs, and they really research it. If someone reports a sighting, they immediately go. They have a whole team that they look at satellite images. And one of the interesting things in one of the episodes that was talking about UFOs in Alaska is there's a lady that works for them, and she had these her and this other gentleman, they had satellite photos of this area of water where a lot of sightings had been seen. And the satellite images, if you look at it, it looks like a flat roof, and then you can see like little pillars where they believe it was either an abandoned base or an ancient base, one that's not being used anymore, but it looks like something unusual is happening there. Like, it doesn't look like your normal underwater formation. And then they had another satellite image of like underwater, almost like highways. Sorry. It was very interesting. The episodes really do have a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, a lot of data. So it's not,
awesome.
It's not just, it's not just like cell phone footage, which, I mean, it's still good, right? But it's like actual military recordings and stuff. And like I said, there are so many episodes talking about the UFOs and the paranormal stuff. I just could not cover all of it. I would be here for days talking about all the UFO sightings. Awesome. So I highly recommend it. Almost everything from my story came exclusively from the TV show. I know it's probably on Hulu, I believe, Discovery Plus, Tubi TV. I mean, I'm sure you can YouTube it.
Yeah, you probably can.
But yeah, that's what I got.
Yay. Well, next week is Thanksgiving, and you're out of town, so we're gonna skip a week.
Okay.
But we'll be back next week, next week, in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So.
I mean, I'm not out of town.
Oh, I thought you were out of town. I think you're out of town.
I don't leave until the day before Thanksgiving.
Oh, well.
But if you want to skip a week, we can tell listeners we're skipping a week. I'll be out of town. Don't listen to me.
But yeah, I'm going to do a story where no one dies.
Ooh, I don't believe you, but all right.
I'm doing it. Nobody dies.
All right.
And it's bonkers. I'm sure you've heard of it, but yeah, I'm not going to give it any more away.
I'm done with the Alaskan Triangle.
Yay! All right, everybody. Well, we hope that you have a great week. Next week is turkey eating
and my birthday,
stuffing your face week, and it's her birthday, in case you forgot. And and we will see you soon. Bye.